beware and keep alert. You do not know when the time will come. These are the opening words of today's gospel passage, 13th chapter, verses 33 to 37. Mark's gospel, actually, the 13th chapter gives a long introduction to these last words of Jesus. When he says, be alert and be ready, because you do not know the time, when the time will come. The meaning is very clear. Jesus was in Jerusalem, and when he saw people appreciating the mighty, magnanimous temple with the precious stones and pearls and all that architecture, Jesus very clearly says to them, not a stone will remain on another. It will be destroyed. And literally in the year 70 AD, the entire temple was destroyed. Because for the Jewish people, the temple of Jerusalem was a place of pride. They were really taking a pride on that temple. And a lot of people used to gather, not only for worship. All Jewish people, Romans and Greeks and people from Arabia used to come together. That was going to be a place of worship, and perhaps during that time it was a place of tourism too. Now, continuing that particular gospel, Jesus says, there will be wars and insurrections and famines. And continuing he says, strange things will happen on the sky. The moon and the sun will be darkened, and strange things will come from above and hit the earth. And there will be famine, and there will be suffering. And many people will come in my name saying that I am He. Do not believe them. You will be persecuted, you will be dragged to synagogues, and you will be imprisoned. But then do not worry. The defense will be given to you at that moment. Jesus says all these things and winds up that particular gospel just before beginning his own persecution and passion. Actually, the 14th chapter begins with the Last Supper, and Jesus goes to his passion and death. And why does he say, be alert and be awake, beware? Difference here, we are given a time, a warning. Now, when we look at this warning of Jesus, we have to clearly understand this small parable. The household, the man who goes on a long journey, entrusting the entire household in the hands of the slaves, giving them a particular task to do. And the doorkeeper is asked to keep a watch, so that when the householder comes back, they all must find in their work, doing their task responsibly. Otherwise, they will be asleep. And when the householder comes, when they find themselves asleep, then that will be a quite different story. They are not prepared. They are not working. They are not responsible. Now, when I look at this gospel passage, I go back to the book of Revelation. We have the 7 churches of Asia Minor where there was a warning given to them, and that warning perhaps is applicable to all of us in this modern world, modern times. You know, when we think of warning, when we think of being alert, be awake, in some way, we all must wake up and find out what's happening around us and within us. Now, the 7 churches of Asia Minor were Ephesus, Smyrna, Sardis, Philadelphia, Pergamos, Laodicea, and Thyatira. So these 7 churches were given warning like this. The first warning was perseverance. Do not let your task down. You continue to do the thing that you are doing. You know, we need to do the things that are entrusted with us. So perseverance is such an important aspect of our daily life. The second warning was, be fearless in the face of persecution. Difference in our daily lives, we all are persecuted in one way or the other. Whether we are persecuted in our own family, maybe in our own society, in our own neighborhood. We cannot be always comfortable. Someone or the other will try to find something to persecute us. But the larger picture is today's society. What do we find? Apart from our own persecution, there is a larger persecution happening out there. When we look at Syria, Iraq, and some other places. Yesterday, we heard that big bomb blast in a mosque in Nigeria. 120 people and 250 people dying. It's a kind of real persecution happening in the world. And then, this is a warning. What God says, be fearless in the face of persecution. The third warning is, be watchful on heresies. Sometimes heresies happen around us. What is a heresy? A particular thing of a faith is exaggeratedly stressed that the people lose track. They go away from the right track. That is called heresy. So be aware of the heresies. Maybe around us there are so many doctrines and false doctrines that can lead us astray. Sometimes people come to me and ask questions. Father, is it true? Is it right? Because I am reading something in the internet, something about the church, something about coming for mass, something about confession and reading the Bible. Is it all necessary? What can I answer? What can I answer? You have the right track. You have the right faith. Why do you go and browse other websites and infect your mind with all these false doctrines? We have the right track. Then the third warning is given, be careful about the false prophets around you. There are false prophets who also indoctrinate us with the wrong teaching. It happens in many other countries, including my own countries. I remember when I was in my previous parish, how many Catholics were taken away from our church by giving them wrong teaching. They just say, oh, that may be the right thing. This may be the right thing. When we are not grounded in our faith, someone says something, immediately we fall prey to that. We become so vulnerable and weak, and we follow that kind of teaching. And that's why that is another type of warning. And then, Satan coming and tempting us. Sometimes many people tell me, oh Father, I am really afraid of my temptations. How I am lured into different type of weaknesses. It is true. Satan exists. And that's another warning that was given in the early church. That be careful of the temptation of the Satan. And the next warning that was given about the lure of the world. The beloved church, one of the churches that accepted the teaching of Christ, gradually they went away because of the attraction they felt in the world. And consequently, they lost track. And that was another type of warning. And the final warning was, you must overcome that lukewarm spirit. God says in the book of Revelation, if you are lukewarm, not very hot and not cold, but you are lukewarm. Lukewarmness is that we are in the middle, neither that side nor this side. And God says, if you are really lukewarm, I will vomit you out of my mouth. These are the literal words that God says to John to write in that vision. Now, when we look at all these churches and the warnings, we come to know that we are given an alert and we need to be careful. I have listed 4 ways of waking us up. First thing is to wake us ourselves to God. In our daily life, how much of importance we give to God in our work, in our family, in our daily activities, in our relationship. Do we really put God in the center of our life? So we need to wake up to that God reality. That means making God the center of our life. When we go to sleep, when we get up, when we work, when we are in relationship in the society, we must always have that thing in mind to give importance to God. God must be the center of our life. Second waking up is towards our family members. Sometimes we can think that I'm the most important person. Of course, for you, you are the most important person. What about the other persons in your family? Sometimes it could be that because of my worries and tensions or ambitions and my motivations and desires, I really neglect one or the other member of my family. So that's a waking up. Sometimes things can happen without our awareness. A particular member in our family deviating from the right path or degenerating because of certain things that happen, or maybe that person has taken a wrong path and he is lost or she is lost, and therefore taking into account waking up in my own family. The third waking up is waking up to myself. You know, my thoughts, my reading, what I am doing, my mind and my body. Yesterday I was giving a talk to the Couples for Christ. There were around 27 of them. I just asked them a few questions. How many of you read Bible every day? So there were 2 of them reluctantly putting up their hand. And then I asked another question, how many of you dedicate at least 10 minutes or 5 minutes for your daily prayer? Not many hands went up. Then a third question I asked, how many of you really take care of your body by regular exercise? 3 of them put up their hand, but not fully. You know, they were just like this out of 27. You know, they did not put up their hand with enthusiasm. Dear friends, time for myself is such an important thing. Waking up to myself. You know, when I recently came back from Harrison Hot Springs, 2 bad news I got. You know, very bad news. The first one, my own friend who is 58 years old, who was not smoking, not drinking, very careful about diet and regular for his exercises. In the first week of October this year, he found to be feeling very weak. He went to the doctor and doctor suspected something and second diagnosed, and then he was having a very serious illness. And when I came back from Harrison, I got the news that he died just in 5 weeks or 6 weeks. Then Father Jerry, St. Edmunds, he phoned me that when I wanted to meet him for an urgent task, he said, today I am very busy because there is a funeral. And I asked a very old person, who said 29 years old. What happened, as he was crossing a road, he was hit by a speeding car and he died on the spot. You know, just imagine. You know, how suddenly life can change. So that's why, how much of importance I am giving to my own mind, being aware. And I saw a beautiful advertisement in ICBC, advertisement in the television. A woman is driving the car and at that moment her phone rings and she picks up the phone and starts talking and driving. And at one moment she fully concentrates on the phone conversation and suddenly a huge truck passes right in front of her and she suddenly puts the brake. And the message, leave your phone alone, from ICBC. Leave your phone alone. You know, we are warned from time to time, dear friends. And the last waking up is waking up to our own society and surroundings. Dear friends, very often we think that we are stressed, we have problems, we have difficulties, we are suffering. But then when we open our mind, we wake up ourselves to the whole entire world. You know, sometimes we have to think that persecutions, wars, violence, hatred, so many people dying, homeless, people from one part of the world to another part of the world, there is a huge exodus going on. People in the desert, especially during this winter time, they do not have a home to live, they do not have enough food to eat, they are in the desert abandoned. Then I wake up to a reality. Well, what are my sufferings and pains and sorrows? When I compare, you know, these are type of waking up. And that's why when Jesus says, be alert and be aware and be ready. You do not know the time when the Son of Man will come. Is a kind of warning to all of us. Now, when we look at the first reading of Isaiah, taken from chapter 63 to 64, this chapter tells us a prayer of a person who feels totally abandoned by God. So he calls, Lord, my Father, Holy Redeemer, our Redeemer is your ancient name. Why can't you tear open the heaven and come and appear to us as you appeared in the olden times. When you appeared on the holy mountain shook. You know, this is sometimes a request by so many people whom I met. Father, there are so many religions, so many different ideas and ideologies about God. Why can't God tear open the heaven and appear to us that He is the one so that we can continue to worship Him? Why do we have all these kinds of religions? But that's not going to happen. In spite of this prayer in the book of Isaiah, that's not going to happen because God does not want to trample on your freedom. We need to discover God through our own hard efforts. And God respects our freedom. God says, you are free to leave me. You are free to come to me. But I give you freedom. And when with all freedom, human freedom, if we are able to come to God, that is going to be our salvation. God does not force us. God can force us by opening heaven and appearing, oh, I am the one, adore me. God does not say that. And that's why in the last part of that reading, there's a beautiful saying there. Lord, you are the potter and we are the clay. And you are the one who forms us, who gives us a shape to us. And therefore we need to surrender ourselves in the hands of the Lord. Dear friends, winding up this short reflection, one thing that comes to my mind, a professor was giving a class. You know, he was enlightening some young people through his lecture. At one point, he lifted up a glass full of water and he asked a question, how much does this glass weigh? And some of them answered 50 grams, others said 100 grams, others said 200 grams, and others said 250 grams. And at one point, the professor said, it does not matter whether it is 50 grams or 100 grams or 250 grams. It does matter how long are you going to hold the glass in your hand. If you hold the glass for 5 minutes, it doesn't matter much. But if you hold the glass for 2 hours, it matters a lot. But if you hold the glass for the entire day, you might need an ambulance to take you to the hospital. So what does that mean? You know, we need to be alert of the things that happen in our mind. We cannot carry all our tensions and sorrows and pains and carry them, the heavy burden. From time to time, we must know to trust someone who takes care of us. And that's why be alert. We do not know when He is coming. From time to time, we must keep down the glass. And then if you are really in need, raise the glass. But if you keep on holding it for a long, long period of time, you will be a broken woman, you will be a broken man. You need an ambulance. And that's why here, a consoling word from God here is be alert and be aware. Beware of your health, beware of your surroundings, beware of God who is going to come, and beware of your family. Let us ask the Lord during this Holy Eucharist to enlighten us that we may be ready when the householder comes and asks for an account. Kindly rise, give prophet.